when it comes to your money, it can be hidden so well. And I've been doing this long enough to see that clearly. If something happens, the client, the main spouse that runs all the money knows all of it, and then they become incapacitated or they pass away. And then working with that spouse and finding out how powerful money is, and really comes down to, you don't become a millionaire on accident. And it's not a matter of if we are going to have a recession, it's when.
Hello everybody, how's it going? Today we are sitting down with Ashten Barber from Eclipse Financial Advisors. She is a dedicated financial advisor, a planner who is passionate about helping her clients get hold of their finances. And the best part, she loves to see them realize that their financial goals are very, very much in reach. So stay tuned for some great insights and some financial tips from Ashten. Hello, Ashten. Welcome to Infinite Icons.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's so nice to see you. How have you been?
How's it been? It's been a roller coaster road. That's the whole life of entrepreneurship, right?
Fantastic. And now the spring is here. It's nice to have a little longer evenings.
Yes, absolutely. Spring equinox is today. I'm not really a total woo-woo person, even though my company's Eclipse. I'm really into astronomy. But this year I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with it a little bit because that's still astronomy, is the spring equinox and new life and excitement and forever growth.
Awesome. So go with the flow.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So we know you as a financial advisor and planner. Could you please give us a little more about yourself and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of start with the company first. I've been in the industry for over 11 years, and I spent a lot of time working with a lot of clients. So I've really seen all of it. I've seen all the ups and downs. I've seen the market through the 2014, 15, 16, all the way through now, seeing 2020, seeing 2022 with the market, but really working with my individual clients on their individual life situations. The company name is Eclipse. And the reason for that is that eclipses are cyclical. They repeat themselves every 7 to 10 years. They're very predictable. And the market as a whole is relatively predictable as well. It follows economic cycles. And so then beyond that, the life cycle is that if I'm working with a client that's 20, the style is very different than 30, 40. I'm currently working in depth with a client in her late 70s, going through a lot of life changes with a spouse passing. And so every single day, every client I talk to is a new environment and new excitement. And that's really the business side of it. On the personal side, I'm a mom to 2 boys, a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old. And my husband's a stay-at-home dad. That was made necessary due to my youngest's needs. And so he's been home for the last 6 years. But I eat, breathe, live finance. My boys, my husband are always like, can we not talk about money? But it's like, it comes into everything. If we're talking about health or wellness, the cyclical nature, the way that we choose to spend money, it really comes up into all things. And so that's my passion. And I really want to heal the relationship for many of my clients when it comes to their feelings towards money. Money is a tool, and I want to really make sure that they know that, and that really taking the shame and guilt out of, oh, I shouldn't have spent that, or I should be doing this. Says who? It's your life, your situation. Similar to time, you're finite on time. Money is finite as well, especially when it comes to your time. You have to exchange a lot of that, and it's being intentional.
Fantastic. I really love how you correlate the natural phenomena like eclipse to finance, and also you are discussing money and finance with your family. That's amazing. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Setting up the foundation for them is so cool. Yeah. So what inspired you to take finance as your career?
If you look at my website, it kind of comes back down to my upbringing, is that the way that I was raised with money, I realize is extremely, extremely different than most people. The mindset was, we get to spend this money. We have a privilege of going to a play. We have the privilege to do these things. My mother was born prior to, or got her first credit card before women could sign a credit card for herself. And we always had heard the story of her having to go to Macy's. She had a little payment book, and every month, and she bought her silver on credit. And she had to prove that for, I don't know if it was like 6, 8, 12 months before she had the privilege of getting a credit card. And so I was always raised with the mentality that a credit card is a privilege and that it works just like your power bill. You use it and you pay it off. You use it and you pay it off. I'd had my first child before I found out that you could actually carry a balance. And it just like blew my mind. I was like, my mom worked so hard to get that. And so that I feel is like a superpower that I have and that my mother gave us, is that really looking at debt as not a tool, but looking at credit as a tool and using that. Secondarily, my mom balances her checkbook, pen and paper, every single day of my life. Not day. She would do it every time she got her statement. So once a month, she would go through it. She would reconcile it. And even when I started getting some money here or there, but really once I got married, is we did not have a lot of money, is that our rent was 75% of our income. So we were very, very intentional, and it's just continued. So I still pull up my bank statement online, take my pen and paper, I write it down, I categorize it, and I really watch for trends and see what is happening in my lifestyle. And so that really, I worked for the government, and I watched a lot of employees. I had a staff of 22, struggling with a lot of finance things. And I was as well, but I was viewing it from a positive nature. Is okay, we get to manipulate. I got a raise. I get to do these. I get to do this. I get to do that, rather than I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's just been the mindset that I've had, and my husband has really adopted that as well. We've been married for almost 20 years, and so he's played with mine. So I was going to be an actress. That was what I wanted, and I worked the year before my husband and I got married on a stage, and I never saw him. I was constantly just working all the time. And I knew, and I heard from the other staff and things, that they're like, yeah, I bought a couch. I've been in the industry for 20 years and I have a couch, and I move my couch whenever I get a new gig, and decided that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted. My husband and I did our taxes for the first time. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because the way that the math works and the number works and all of that. And so I went, okay, I'm going to change to accounting. So I took my first accounting class, and it was all about auditing. And I'm not a paper person. I'm a people person. I'm like, oh, I really can't do that. So quickly changed to finance. One other funny story with that is that my dad was very supportive of me becoming an actress. Theater was part of our upbringing, part of our life. So when I changed majors, he pushed back. And he was saying, I don't want your husband deciding. I don't want your in-laws deciding. You want to be an actress, be an actress. And I was like, I think I really want to do, something with business and finance. And he's like, not okay with it. And my mother was down. I still had a lot of the stuff in my parents' house since I was in college. And my mom saw on my bookshelf, I had young teen romance novels and personal finance books. She calls him down, Paul, come look at this. And she's like, I think she really wants to be in finance. And my dad called me and said, if that's what you're going to do, I support you, but know that you don't have to do it for anyone else other than you. So it really just kind of started when I was young, and seeing how that relationship is, and even more over the last 11 years, and seeing how powerful money is. And really comes down to, you don't become a millionaire on accident. You don't become a multimillionaire on accident. And those were most of the people I was working with higher dollar amounts. But their view of money was not a scarcity. It was a fact of life. And so that's what I empowered in my clients. So it started really young with the viewpoint of money, that money is awesome and wonderful, and it gives you so much freedom and availability. And so why not do it for everybody else?
Oh my goodness, that was mind-blowing, fantastic. From from acting career to finance. Oh wow, amazing. All right, so definitely discipline matters a lot here. So you would have come across a lot of clients and who are even entrepreneurs and even otherwise. What do you think are some of the mistakes they commit, and what are the effects of these kind of mistakes, the financial mistakes they do?
So there's really two types of risks when it comes to investing. There's investment risk and investor risk. Investment risk is political, economic, market. I can't think of the word, but it's like interest rate. I think there's one more, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And those are things that are completely uncontrollable. What
Mm.
is controllable is the investor risk. Is working through 2016, we had some serious market volatility. Then 2017, we saw huge growth after the tax went through. Then we saw the trade war in 2017 and 2018. We then saw, of course, COVID. And then through 2022, the market, when interest rates were going up, it was very noisy. It was very difficult. And a lot of my clients were emotional. And so when it comes to the overall view of the biggest mistakes is being emotional with your money. Money's already emotional. Like I'm not gonna trade that for anything. It is, but part of why I focus on a financial plan, and really that is the bread and butter as to why I became my own company, left the corporate world of it, is we need a plan. And we'll all hear this, but I'm going to repeat it because why not? Is dream, do, or dream, plan, do. So when we went through these volatile times, if I had a plan with these clients, or if I didn't, it was let's build a plan. Oh, but it's scary. It's this, it's that. It's scary because we don't have direction. So whenever I meet with a client, it doesn't matter, the market's volatile right now. It's down from where it was the peak. Now it's up. I don't know if it was up today, but really looking at, I think it was this morning, but really looking at the plan. So when COVID happened, that was the main one, is that I called every single one of my 800 clients and I asked them 3 questions. Number one, well, 3, 4, how are you doing? Of course, just checking in how they're doing, because there was scare, there was fear, there were so many things. But when it came to their finances, has your financial situation changed? Meaning, are you out of work? Are you not getting this? Are you supporting a family member that was laid off? Do you have someone that moved in with you? The second one was, has your time frame changed? Meaning, are you going to work longer? Are you retiring sooner? Really, has there something in your situation changed? Saying, okay, I'm going to relocate. So has your time frame changed? And then last would be, has your risk tolerance changed? And that third question is one that I talk with my clients from the very first conversation, is what is your risk tolerance? When the market's good, they're normally high. When the market's bad, they're normally low. I really try to educate them that the market's going to change. We're going to see eclipses. We're not going to see one here until 2034, but there's one on March 29th on the other side of the country, or the other side of the world. If you really want to see it, you can. But that risk really pulls into their situation. So again, with inside that, it's the risk inside the viewpoint of, I like analogies, is speed limits. Is what's the appropriate speed to drive? Well, many people will say 65, but guess what? I'm not going to drive 65 miles per hour in front of my house. So it's based on conditions, and it's also based on other outside variants such as rain, traffic, so on and so forth. So the biggest mistake that my clients have made is they let the risk, so of those 3 questions, they let the risk tolerance control the other 2. And so it's taking a step back, because when I plan with my clients, I'm planning for the short, medium, and long term. And it's not a matter of if we are going to have a recession, it's when, because we will. Recessions happen. That's part of how the economy works. It's like seasons of the year, just spread out over 10 years rather than a calendar year. So with both entrepreneurs, really any individuals, I would say the top 2 mistakes are they let their emotions get in the way, And then the second one is they're too afraid to start. Is once I know this, once I do this, once I do this, or once I pay off debt. And I like to think of it when it comes to, I've got a 17-year-old here looking at college pretty soon. And, when you've got students that are like, I'm going to get into this college. It's, once I get into this college, life will be good. Well, okay, let's say you go to an Ivy League, you go to Yale. Now you're at Yale. Now you're competing with everyone else that you are at the level, and now you have to excel. So it's really focusing on the journey, not the destination. And so with individuals struggling to start, the best time to invest was yesterday. The next best time is today. And that doesn't mean it has to be in the stock market or in here, but it's having a clear plan as to where I'm going, because otherwise it doesn't matter.
Right. So calculated risks are so essential, and it's needed for growth. So yeah, you do guide your clients from the do's and don'ts of money, the finance world. So are there any tips that you could share here with our clients, our audience today? General tips to take care of their money, how to handle your money, because money is definitely overwhelming when you do not know how to handle it. So
Exactly.
one is that it's hard to earn money, and once you start earning, you don't know how to manage it, and you definitely want to grow your money. Your money should work for you. So
Absolutely.
Any general tips that you could share here?
Yeah, I think that the number one tip I would give to anyone is being honest with yourself. And looking at the numbers don't lie, they're black and white. That's just really such a very, very pivotal, important aspect of knowing that numbers are numbers. I actually am pulling up this quote that I love. It's data kills denial, which prevents disaster. It's by John Acuff. And what it comes down to is when we make a goal or we make an expectation is, I want to read 52 books this year. Okay, in the middle of November, if I've read 5, chances are I'm not going to hit the 52, and I get to choose. I get to choose whether or not I do these things. And so when it comes to our finances and our money, is especially people will be like, I'm going to feed my family of 4 for $500 a month. No, you're not. Is it possible? Yeah, it is. Is it probable? No. And when it comes down to that scarcity, that negativity, then it makes you feel, and there's guilt about grocery shopping. I bring up food for an example because if we look here in California, you're on food stamps, you get $200 per person per month. So the government is saying the minimum is $800. Okay, so that's the minimum that the government is giving you. That's probably a good benchmark to start with. And maybe even giving yourself an extra $200 to $300 because you're not at the poverty level. You have that flexibility. And so I think that we're all very factual when it comes to our fixed expenses. Rent, gas, power, all those bills that come in consistently, we know are there. Well, our food and our gas, driving, all of these things are also pretty predictable as well. And what you can do is you use your bank statements because they've already told you. So my tips are to really look over the last 6 to 12 months and look at what your income truly is and where your income is actually going. It's also a really great time right now as we're going into tax season, and especially W-2 employees or even, self-employed. It's like, that's how much money I made? Like, where did it all go? Well, look at your bank statements. It'll tell you exactly where it went. And so looking at that and then just not being in denial, it's, I went to dinner and it was $250. Cool. Okay, I did that. And not saying, oh, I spent so much money on food. Can't change it. All we can change is going forward. So really the tip number one is being honest with yourself, being honest with your money, and not trying to bury it down and feel guilty about it. It's the past. there's nothing we can do. And that just really, leads back to like that depression is, fear of the past. It's done. So now looking towards the future, then looking at here and now and going, every expense that I pay is an investment. If I'm going out to a networking event, if I'm going out with friends to drinks, those are intentional choices and I get to choose that. And then going on and planning that going forward and really just kind of balancing that out and not expecting things to change drastically. And second tip is knowing that when it comes to investing or all things in life, most things go in a approach of a hockey stick. So things stay really, really, really flat, and then they just kind of start to exponentially grow. And so really looking at that and saying, just because it's flat today, just because it feels monotonous, I say this as a mother, is the days are long and the years are short. My boy is going to be 18 this year, and I'm just like, how on earth? And then it's like we have homework days, and it's like, oh my goodness, I can't get through this day. This is so much. And so our assets and our money and our life is going to do the same style. And so staying consistent and knowing that things are not in a vacuum short term, long term. I'll say, another one is very beneficial is being honest with your debt. And a lot of people that I've experienced over my career, and I've got a client, I love and adore him, and he's worth about $2 million in his mid 80s. And I had him bring all of his bank statements, and I'm like, you're paying like $25 on a credit card. That sounds like the minimum payment. Well, yeah. Why? Well, because I just hate that I have it. At $2 million. Come to find out, he had about $25,000 in credit card debt. He was paying the minimum. So the debt was continuing to go up even though he wasn't using it. I finally told him, I'm like, we're selling this stock that has been up 40% this year, and you're paying off that. And it was really a hard thing for him because it was something that he always had. And so he felt shame. And then I went, so how's it going to feel when it's zero? It sucks. That was what he told me. And that wasn't probably his word. That's my word. But it doesn't feel good, I think is what he said. And I called him about 3 months later. And I said, so how are your credit cards? And he said, fine. Like, you updated the maximum, matching it. Yeah. And so I feel like sometimes people are, I'm bad, I'm in debt, or, all of that. Wealthy people also choose to use that debt. And it's just something to be real with. So, of course, it'd be great to stay out of credit card debt, but that's not always life. So I think the number one tip is being honest. I think that something that helps us in general in life is adjusting the I can't do that to I'm not choosing to do that. And hey, I can't afford to go out tonight. You know what? I have other priorities for my money. I want to spend money on my kids, or I want to spend money on shoes or this or that. And so just like time, you can't have both. So it's really choosing that. I'll share one other story. I have a wonderful client. I went through her whole situation this fall, and her number one goal was to pay off all of her credit card debt. And so great. We're good friends as well. I saw her vision board she posted on social media, and it was all travel. And I called her up. I'm like, you got to be honest. She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I was like, you don't want to get out of debt. She's like, no, but I really do. I'm like, yes, but you also want to do this. So my responsibility, my job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to look at it and go, okay, if we do this, then it's like your, basic science. If then. And so really looking into it and saying, okay, are you comfortable with this $5,000 trip to Costa Rica ending up over your lifetime costing you $50,000? And she said, yeah, it is. Okay. Now you've chosen that. Now we're going to come back to this, and it's going to get tighter cash flow. There's going to be difficulties and sacrifices you're going to need to make to do this. Okay. And just really taking that control back. I feel like when it comes to the do's and don'ts is the thing about health and fitness is that when you're eating unhealthy or you're, different things, your body shows it. Your face shows it. You can see a bloated face. You can see different things. Your fingers are swollen from having too much Chinese food that's got lots of salt in it. Those are visual things. When it comes to your money, it can be hidden so well. And I've been doing this long enough to see that clearly, really addressing your life. So when I start with clients, the first question I ask them is, what is important about money to you? And that is the key. And it should be, in my opinion, again, people can do whatever they want, but it's the feeling. So ones I've had over the years are security, freedom, choices, abundance, control, resilience, balance, spontaneity. And so that's where we start. That is the core, rather than, oh, well, I want to buy some life insurance because I think I need that. Okay. Now back to why is money important? What is important about money? Security for your legacy. Perfect. Life insurance works. But is it comfort? Can you afford the monthly payments? All of those types of things. So I think the biggest tip is coming down to what you want. I say this often, is people are going to should all over you. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. You should do a Roth. You should do a traditional. You shouldn't do your 401k. All of those things. And I want to take it back to, what do you want as an individual? Because you're broke. When I hear clients that tell me, oh, my brother-in-law bought Tesla and he made tons and tons of money. Okay. That's the same as my good friend that actually went down to Vegas, and she was like, I made $700. After talking a little bit more, she spent about double that. But in her mind, it was a win. Okay, so she spent $700 to have some fun, and she walked home with $700. Cost $14, but it really just comes down to that mindset of taking that tool and using it appropriately. A chainsaw can be valuable. It can also be extremely dangerous.
Fantastic. Love this tip. Let's see from our audience what is their takeaway from this, and please do leave us a line in the comment section. And if you already have not subscribed, please do so. Oh, fantastic talking to you. And moving on, it's a common notion that only the wealthy and rich should have or can have financial advisors because they are the ones with that kind of money. What do you say to this?
So the first thing really comes down to, the industry has changed. Money has changed. The internet has changed so much. Cell phones have changed really so much. And so the market has really, and when I say market, I mean the financial market, really our cash and everything, how it works. We could even go back to the 50s when people got their hair dryers fixed. Now we throw it away and buy a new one. And so just because of that, the industry has had to change. And when it comes to financial advisors, there's a lot of financial advisors that worked in the prior age. So I believe really the stock market and the market, not the stock market, but the market as a whole really changed in the mid 2000s. And then it was hit very hard with the financial crisis. But the 2000 to 2010 is known as the lost decade. We started the decade off really, really great with Enron and tech. Then the tech bubble burst. Then 9/11 happened. Then we started to see this recovery. And then we saw those subprime mortgages, all of those things. And then people were filing for bankruptcy. They lost their homes. So really the beginning to the end of that decade, assets did not grow when it comes to the traditional, if you're just looking at the market. That doesn't mean people didn't grow, but the general stock market. And so also inside that innovation, a lot of online started. and especially in this industry. So when I look at most financial advisors, they're in the industry for 30 to 40 years. And I don't know about you, but normally around year 10 to 15, you get stuck in your way. It's I've done this, I know how to do it, I know how to do the job. And it's kind of the teaching old dog new tricks. And you can add that, but the industry used to be you needed a stockbroker to make a stock trade because they had to call Wall Street. You call their broker, broker calls the trade desk calls Wall Street goes to the floor, back. There was a reason to spend $40, $50, $100, $200, $500 for a trade because there was work involved. Now it's a click of a button. And so that is a huge change with the industry. There are really two ways of working with a financial advisor. And the first one is fee only. That is, you're paying for a service. I think about this like going to the doctor. You're going to the doctor to get advice, to get guidance, to get support. And so that's that part. The secondary part is fee-based. This is much more historical. Also, I'll put commission into this one as well, where it says, I'm going to sell you a product or I'm going to manage a product and you're going to pay me a percentage. That is a little bit of the old way when it came to advice because advice was very minimal. Now advice is much bigger. So for me personally, I do fee only and I do fee based. However, I start with the fee only because I have to have a plan before I can sell you a product. So it's not about, and many of the times too, as it was in the past, I have products to sell. So you need to be able to buy them in order for me to make money. And so there was an element that you had to have money to start. And that's no longer the case when it comes to the financial planning aspect. I've built out a financial plan. Well, my son's girlfriend came to me, started making some money. She's in college and said, hey, I think I need a financial plan. Like I talked to my parents. And so I was like honored, like, yeah, absolutely. And my son came along for the ride, my older boy.
Yeah, that is my question, the follow-up question. When should these young adults actually take control of their finances? And what's the best time and where to start all this?
Yeah, let me finish this and then I'll go into that. But what I did with her is I just went to her dreams, her wants. She wants a car, she wants to upgrade her cell phone, all of these different things. And so just putting clear boundaries into place and I like to say the power bill always gets paid. But what about you and your future? And it's not about paying yourself first, it's about paying your future self first. And so my son, after, he was like, oh my gosh, that's what you do? Because he normally sees the stock side of it. So I believe that today is the best day to start. Tomorrow's the next. And it doesn't really matter what your age is. Because even with her at a young age, she just has a strategy now. We had a 45-minute conversation and she's going to do it from here. But she always has me to come back to. And so the combination between, you don't have to have a pile of money to start. There are firms that will not talk to you until you have that pile of money. And I've worked for one of those firms and that's fine. But that's also why I went independent. As an independent advisor, I get to choose who I work with. And I will choose to work with really anyone, but the true caveat is ready to actually face the facts. I'm not going to convince you that savings is something valuable. I'm not going to convince you that this over this, or I'm not going to convince you that you can get out of debt and go on vacation. At least not at the same intensity. There has to be a point. And so when it comes to children, and I strongly believe more is caught than taught. And meaning I learned about credit from my mom. I learned that credit was a privilege. And again, I said from the beginning, I realized my growing up view of money is very different. My partner, my husband, he was raised in a household of PPM, payments per month. Can I make the boat payment? Can I make the RV payment? And that's another lifestyle. That's just not mine. And then there's the final one that is a lot of the we can't, or we're in so much debt and the debt is drowning us and those types of things. So I think addressing the your relationship with money. There's an author I like, and he talks about money scripts. You have a script as to what money is. And that started pretty much from about 2 years old. And so really, when it's like, okay, it's time to take time to look at this, giving yourself a lot of grace. And I really try to avoid the idea of like generational trauma around that, because it's not what happened, that's past. What am I going to do to change my relationship going forward? And so I am very, very adamant about educating at all ages. I have a seminar that I've put on a couple times, and I'm going to continue, which is back to school financial advice at any age.
Awesome.
Because it works that way. And I'll even share, when I worked for my prior firm, I had at least over the 7 years in California, over a dozen individuals that walked into my office and said, I just retired. How much money do I get?
Unaware.
Completely unaware, and going through the numbers and things and going, well, I can't live on that. Okay.
And it's a really bad time to understand that.
It is. And it's heartbreaking because the education just wasn't there. And then it comes in with that roadblock of, I don't deserve an advisor. I don't have enough. And I do believe the industry is changing even more all the time. But it's really that everyone deserves a financial advisor. There are thousands of financial advisors out there. I often say there are more people that need financial advisors than the financial advisors that can serve them. I will kind of give tips for a moment about finding a financial advisor. Are they starting with you or product? If they're not getting to know you, your goals, your expectations, not a good fit. It's like going into a doctor and saying, you know what, I kind of had some headaches. Okay, we'll take Tylenol. Oh, okay, that's fine. But do I trust that doctor? Do I trust what they're telling me? I also kind of compare it to the dentist. Is like, you need to go get your teeth cleaned regularly. Same with your financial plan. You need to check on it regularly. But you barely see the dentist. But when you have a horrible cavity, whatever, you call your dentist and you know and you trust them. That's a very important relationship. So I've asked many clients is that, how do you feel about if you have a financial advisor, how do you feel about them? They're okay. They're okay. This is your entire future wealth. They should be amazing. And of course, we're all flawed individuals and we may not always align, but that's the thing is, what are they starting with? And if it's not, tell me about you, your goals, your expectations, then that's someone that's selling. And if that's what you want, is you want to be sold, then that's fine. And then the next part, which I brought up a little, well, is trust. Is that you trust that they are looking out for your best interest, and not because there's laws. Not because of Reg BI or suitability standards or fiduciary standards, all of those things. That's kind of like the hair dryer that has the don't use well in water. And so it's like, well, yeah, obviously, when I'm working with clients, I am taking care of them. So those are two things that I say are really, really valuable when looking at a financial advisor. And the third I would say is, I specialized with software engineers. I work with anyone, but I really love my software engineers. And there's a couple reasons. They're super smart. They know the tacticals. They know how markets work, or they know how mechanics work. It's so incredible. And sometimes they get in their own way because they're really passionate, and then they get busy. And then they come back to it, and then they get busy. The second part is they are normally highly concentrated in their companies and their sectors. Warren Buffett says, buy what you know. That's wonderful. And diversifying that out from just that. But the third and the most important part, I think, of a financial plan is both spouses need to be part of the conversation. It is completely fine if my clients want to keep their finances separate. I don't understand it because I never had any money, so it was always combined money. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was always combined money. So that's my script, is combined money. But really what it is, if it's separate or together, is there's a vision. Is what is that vision? I'll share another story. I have a client that is worth a couple $1 million, again, in the mid-70s, and their dog got sick. And so they needed to have surgery for their dog. So we came in for our quarterly review, and they informed me that they weren't going to Japan. They've been planning this trip for a decade, and the dog needed surgery. And so they're not taking it. And so because I use statistical models and things like that, I ran through the numbers, and it really doesn't matter. The legacy difference, especially if they live, okay, maybe their son gets, I don't know, $5,000 less. You do. And so I did. I told him that with his wife and said, I can see the pain that she had. And for him, it was, well, it's not the numbers. So bringing those together. And so that third step of working with a financial advisor, of really looking at it, is, are they looking at the big picture? If we're looking at just a silo, what happens, and I've seen this many, many times working in my career, is that something happens, the client, the main spouse that runs all the money knows all of it, and then they become incapacitated or they pass away. And then working with that spouse and finding out, I had one that this woman, they were barely making ends meet. She didn't know how she was going to pay for a funeral. And she'd come in, and I found out she had an account worth $1 million. And I was like, we've got money. We've got this. And she was furious. And I was like, just found $1 million. She goes, I spent the last 20 years so afraid to spend money because we didn't have any. And it broke my heart, and just went, there needs to be some clarity. And it's not about control, but it's about unity. I look at that marriage was a 60-year marriage. And I just look at it with my husband and I at 20 years, how devastating. And so bringing that spouse into the conversation. And so the three things for that, because I like my threes, is if they start with planning, they start with what you want, your vision, your goal, what you want. Secondarily is you trust them. You listen to them, you understand them. And then the final one is bringing in the entire family to the conversation. And I do work with generational wealth. I love to state that I'm not only your father's financial advisor, or I'm not only your child's financial advisor. It's looking at those generational things and being clear, this is what they need to know. This is what they need to know. I'm not going to overlap any of those things, but I can give some guidance around it. And kind of put the point on planning is that I brought up the doctor, is that a prescription without an examination is malpractice. And so really looking at what is the examination of your financial situation? What is the examination of your wants, your needs, your goals, pain points? Sometimes I have clients that are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that money. Okay, that's fine. But if you go into the doctor and you're having stomach problems, and the doctor says, what have you been eating? And you say, that's none of your business. Okay, the doctor's going to try. They'll give you an antacid, this or that, but it may be a much deeper problem that could be easily fixed. And so that's where that trust is so valuable.
So true, so true. Yeah, in my opinion, I think even if I don't have a clear-cut picture for my finances, talking to a financial advisor like you would definitely bring some clarity, and together maybe after a few sessions I will know exactly what I want to do with whatever money I have and how to grow and all other things.
Mhm.
right? So a financial advisor is so essential for everybody, irrespective of the numbers. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
All
I think
right.
too, one that I bring up a lot is the facts and the feelings. So we've got
Mm-hmm.
personal finance or behavioral finance. The behavior is that scarcity, free or fear, greed, emotion, all of those things. And those are all super valid. But also the facts are retirement, time, cash flow, um, gifting, buying a house. So it's taking those two together and combining them. And also as an advisor is me coming back and saying, these are the facts. Like, I love building out my financial plans, looking at a cash flow. I have a client that's really concerned about running out of money. And so I look at the statistics and everything. If they continue exactly as they are today, they will run out of money in 33 months. And so, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to talk regularly to make sure that your life, when it changes, or we need to make some adjustments, is maybe we don't get to do this and this, but it's not that I'm waiting until we're 12 months to being out of money. No, it's we've got 3+ years, something like that, 2.5 to 3 years, and we're going to be checking on it all the time. And it's yeah, I want to see your bank statement. I want to know, and because I have the assets, it's if you're calling me or emailing me for a distribution, I'm happy to send it. And I will then give you a call and say, hey, what's going on? And if it's, I just keep spending too much money. Okay. Do you need guidance? Do you need support? Or they call and say, hey, you know what? I really want to just help out my child. They need this. Okay. It's your money. It's your choice. But having a partner that's not in the marriage or the relationship can be very helpful. If we go back to my client that was canceling their Japan trip,
Mm-hmm.
we thought it was a waste of money, and she saw it as a trip of a lifetime. So I came in and going, the math doesn't matter. The math doesn't change. The math is the math. The numbers are the facts. And so being able to bring that to the conversation, if they didn't have the net worth they had, then yeah, it would be. But that's where it comes back to, like, should I go on this trip? Well, let's let the math decide. So that's
Gotcha.
really the value that I believe I bring to my clients is the facts. I'm going to still talk to the feelings, but the facts are the facts. That's why finance is so much fun. It's because it's just numbers.
Right. It is. That's the usual thing, right? It's math and numbers, and that's money. That we usually forget the emotions side of it.
Yeah. Same with taxes, same with so many other things. They're mathematical equations
Yeah.
that we have. And then it's how do we react and act on them. If you're a small business owner, how do you deduct things? How do you do this? Are you putting into retirement accounts, after tax accounts? Are you gifting money to children? All of those things come into it. And it just really is a very complex thing that can be super simplified. And that's what I love to do, is bringing in that and pulling it all together and then giving a tangible document saying, this is where we're at. And I love to say, the thing is the financial plan is just like a family photo. Once you take one, someone announces they're pregnant.
Yeah.
That's what happens. But that doesn't mean we don't take the picture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So true. I know it's so relatable, and it's a beautiful fusion of both the numbers and the emotion.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what gives you a whole picture of your finances.
But that's life too.
That's true.
It's interesting. We've had some family illness, and I read in a book, and it was talking about that when you're healthy, you have a lot of things to worry about. When you're sick, you only have one: to get healthy.
Mm,
And so I feel that many times there's a hiding from the one real important thing because you don't want to face it. And that's because many people have been raised or understanding or different things that it is a scary thing, because it is. It's scary because it is the resource that makes everything happen.
Yeah.
But let's take that and go, I am the thing that makes everything happen. Take control.
That sounds so comforting. If I know what exactly I want to do and I have the control, it's a blessing and it's a privilege.
It is. But it's scary. It's scary to change that mindset, but it's also so empowering and saying, yeah, I'm going to do this for me and not because someone said I should.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I love that approach. Yeah. So it gets so much easier and clearer that, this is what we need to do to be wherever I want to be.
I have one client that I love. We went through because we go through quarterly and then annually I go through like their dreams, their goals, and make sure that they're still aligned. And his biggest concern is taking money out of the wrong account and paying taxes where unnecessary. Like, that is like the ultimate freedom. And what it comes down to is he calls me and says, I'm doing this, send me the money. And I take the money and go, this is where we're going to take it from. And it's based on what's happening in the market, what's happening in this situation. Like if he was calling me today, I'm going to do a very different distribution than I would be if he did it in January. And that's where I feel the fun and the joy. And when people talk about, oh, I can do this all on my own, you absolutely can. You can do anything on your own. But do I have the tools and the skills? We had our landlord had someone come out and trim the trees. Could I have trimmed the trees? Yes. But they were in the tree. They had the ropes and the different things, and they were here in like 15, 20 minutes and done. It would have taken me so long that we hire specialists to do specialized things. And the time versus the money.
Yes, and less messy.
Yes, and less dangerous.
Yes, that too. Absolutely. Yes. Oh, that was so good. That was really, really valuable. So here we go with our fast 5 questions. All right, here we go. What is the best advice you ever received?
Trust your gut and don't let others sway you. If you change your mind, you change your mind, but not based on someone else.
Fantastic. What are you still working on as an entrepreneur?
Everything. Running a business. I know what to do my job. I never intended to be a business owner. And that is difficult. That was a longer answer, but that's what I'll say is running a business versus doing a job.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it is an ongoing thing. The business is always different, always new, something to learn all the
Financial
time.
planning and advice, I got down. That I got. Marketing, networking, even doing my taxes. I've always done my own taxes, but this year I'm like, I actually asked my husband, I'm like, I think I might hire someone. And his response was, yeah, I think that the last thing you need is more on your plate. So again, outsourcing something I know how to do, but I'm going to leave it to someone that's going to be specialized.
So what would be your advice to a new business owner? One advice.
You have to believe in what you're doing. Meaning, mine is financial advice. Yours is combining entrepreneurs based on what I know about you. So that is, you have to be 100% sold on what you do.
Got you.
Then it makes all the work worth it.
So true.
We'll add one more quote. Sorry. I have one right here on my desk. It says, it takes time to create excellence. If it could be done quickly, more people would do it.
How nice. I know. Absolutely. Yeah. It is so true. You need to put in that time and efforts to build that excellence. The bar should be always, high.
I'm going to
So,
give one more short answer
mm,
to that one is twice as long, twice as expensive.
oh, cool.
If you think it's going to be a year and you're going to be making $10,000 a year or $10,000 a month, nope. 2 years and $5,000.
Mm, yeah,
And if
makes
you don't
sense.
do that, then it's probably not. We're dreamers. Entrepreneurs are dreamers.
Yeah, we bring action and make it real.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What would you be if you were not what you're today?
Do I get to say two?
Yeah, okay.
My dream really was I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wouldn't want that now, but that would probably be one. And my family is full of teachers. And so I've been kind of pushed in that direction from more external family. And my view is I get to teach people every single day, just one-on-one, not in a group. But I think those would be two of the things that I would do is more time with my kids through either being at home or having the same hours they have. I say spend more time with my kids. I spend a ton of time with my kids, but I also spend a lot of time behind my laptop. And my father was very, very similar, is he was always there, present at every concert, all of these types of things, and I am as well. It's that I learned as a working mom, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And in my mind, if I was to be something else, I think that I would have wanted more quantity, but I love the quality I get to have. So I want to make that clear. I still get great time with my kids.
Bingo. Yeah, yeah. So true. Yeah. And one word to describe you?
Passionate.
So cool. That was fantastic. All right. So if somebody wants to reach you, where can they?
My website is eclipsefinancialadvisors.com or eclipsefa.com or ashtenbarber.com. Those are all there. Also, my phone number is on the website, but send me an email. My name is Ashten, Ashten, at eclipsefa.com, or send me a text or a call to 949-299-1505 and reach out to me and make that happen.
All right. That was fantastic. Any word of wisdom for our audience today before we close?
I believe we have intuition and knowledge, and what gets in the way of me as a business owner, me as a parent, me as a spouse, is the comparison to other people. And it's so easy to say it, and it's so hard to do it. And so finding that centering space of not being selfish, but being self. A few years ago, I started making a list of things that I like to do. I've been with my husband since high school. And so, well, we like to do this. We like to do this. We like to do this. And then having kids, we do what they want. And finding what it is I like. I like sitting at the beach. I like reading self-help books. I like reading still romance novels. I love doing puzzles. And those are things I do for myself. And my boys don't touch my puzzle. That's mom's. And I think finding little things, if you can see right here, I have Wally on my desk. I've got two of them. I love Wally.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I love little droids because they just make me happy. And so in all things in life is centering, it's your life. Nobody's going to care any more than you do. And especially as a wife, as a caregiver, as a parent, we forget that. And I sure did. And I did for a long time. And I'm still learning what it is I like. And you can change that. Okay, I have one last one. I stated also earlier is the journey is the destination. I had a friend of mine that's decided to go back to work after being an entrepreneur after 15 years. And he said, I failed. I absolutely failed. I gave up. And I thought about it for a couple days, and I called him up and I said, you know what? You're right. You're totally failed. But you know what? You also gave up in education in the traditional sense after your senior year of high school. You just gave up. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to go to school 6 hours a day anymore. I'm going to go to school for these 3 hours and these 3 hours. And then when I finished college, I gave up on school and I got a job. No, you didn't give up. You evolved. You changed. Your priorities changed. The second I had my son, I never wanted to go skiing again. Okay, does that make me a quitter? No, it means I changed. You're supposed to. Seasons change, lifestyle changes, our bodies change, we get wrinkles, we get gray hair. You're meant to change. Embrace it, don't fight it.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was really, really nice. Thank you so much for your time, Ashten, today. I really enjoyed and learned so much from you. Thanks for being here today and for your insights. Thank you, and I wish you all the best. See you
Thanks.
sometime really soon.
Sounds
Have a
great.
good one.
Bye, everybody.